take it from K again. You know what I mean? At the end of a chorus, I'll just go like that and hold the chord. 1, 2, could be a different chord.
There's no doubt where the creative energy for this group is coming from. That's jazz composer Carla Bley rehearsing her orchestra, and you can almost touch the energy she radiates. We'll see more of Carla later, but first let me introduce myself. I'm Marion McPartland, and I'd like to talk for a moment about jazz creativity and why I and a lot of people think jazz is so very special. Because jazz is creativity. It's like painting, poetry, dance, or whatever it is we call art. Now, usually we think of classical music in this way, but in classical music, the creativity comes in two parts. There's the composer who works on a piece of music until it's ready for performance, and then there are the musicians who play it. But the jazz musician does both at the same time. You have to be able to play your instrument with as much skill as a classical musician and create new melodic ideas, and not in the privacy of your own studio, but on the spot. Ideas that come out of your heart, your instrument, and your mind while you're playing. Now this is improvisation, and it's the real core of jazz. Of course, jazz is not all improvised. There's almost always some music written or at least pre-planned that serves as the base for improvisation. For instance, you know that Gershwin tune, The Man I Love. Right away, jazz musicians would add some interpretive touches, embellish a few notes, change the sense of phrasing slightly, play with the melody line, give it that hard-to-define rhythmic feel we call swing. But let me show you how the great jazz guitarist Mary Osborne does it. She's playing here in a 1958 television show. First, Mary gives her own interpretation of the melody. Now the tempo shifts into what we call double time, and Mary begins to improvise variations on the theme. By the way, do you recognize the woman next to Mary? It's the legendary Billie Holiday. That was beautiful, wasn't it? Just some improvisation on an old popular tune. But Mary got so much out of it. It was almost as if she was opening the tune up to see what it was made of. And what she found, she used for her improvisation. There was the original melody. And the melody's underlying chords, which is the foundation of the tune. Sometimes Mary improvised by embellishing the melody, but more often she created new melodies, using the chords of the original tune as a starting point. But that's just the technical part. Every jazz musician learns a tune and its chord changes pretty quickly. The tough part is making your solo original. And this is where honesty counts. You can get by being slick and having good technique, but the great jazz solo happens when you're not expecting it, when you're letting yourself come out in your playing, your music, your life, your past musical experiences. In fact, even the mood you woke up in this morning, it all goes in there. What comes out is as unique as you are. It's a creation of the moment that sometimes surprises you as much as it does the audience, as if it came from a part of you that you never really knew existed. Finding that part and expressing it is what makes jazz so special. Some of the best moments in jazz come when playing the blues, a form of jazz at least as old as jazz itself. The blues are a little like haiku, form of Japanese poetry in which each poem is exactly 17 syllables long, and each thought, every emotion you want to express has to be contained in those 17 syllables. The blues are just as simple. A 12-bar melody over a few basic chords. But, like haiku, the simplicity of the form seems to be the creative challenge. This is tenor saxophonist Willeen Barton, who began her career with the International Sweethearts of Rhythm, the great all-woman band of the 40s. Here, Willeen is playing a blues she has written. First, she states the theme, simplicity itself. A 4-bar phrase repeated 3 times over the 12-bar blues form. Now she leaves the melody behind and begins improvising off the blues chord changes, which all jazz musicians know well. That's the end of the first chorus, and now she's back at the top, beginning another 12-bar chorus. Now the third chorus. Willeen will continue building chorus after chorus until she's told the story she wants to tell, until she's said it all. And now it's the bass player's turn. He takes a solo for 3 choruses. Now Willeen plays the first 4 bars of the chorus, and the drummer answers with a 4-bar phrase of his own. We call this trading 4s. And now it's back to the melody, coming home, a final restatement. A reminder of where the improvisation began. Another set of chords that all musicians know by heart are the chords from the Gershwin tune, I've Got Rhythm. The ones that begin like this. It has become almost a jazz tradition to write new melodies over these simple chords. Musicians from every era have tried their hand at it, and hundreds of melodies, from the very simple to the very complex, have been written to these chords. That one was Oleo by Sonny Rollins. Well, that was Steeplechase by Charlie Parker. Now we're about to see one of the younger modern musicians, sax player Jane Ira Bloom, play the tune she wrote over these chords. And you may have trouble recognizing any of the original I've Got Rhythm, because this is a pretty far-out composition which Jane acknowledges with her humorous title for it, I Got Rhythm but No Melody. Jane is giving the old tune a new look, not only with the melody she wrote, but by the way she improvises on it. Listen as she begins her improvisation by quoting phrases of the original I Got Rhythm. Jane has just reached the end of one 32-bar chorus. The bass and vibes are still outlining the chords of the tune, giving Jane the freedom to wander wherever her personal vision takes her. However, if you listen carefully, you'll be able to hear fragments of Jane's composition and the original Gershwin tune. Jane not only improvises on the tune and chord changes, she also tries other techniques, such as experimenting with the sound of her instrument as she points it in different directions. Jane is not only a wonderful player, she's a well-schooled musician who composes many of the tunes she plays. This is almost a natural extension of being a good soloist. But sometimes you hear more in your head than can possibly be expressed on a single horn. You hear the texture of several instruments playing in harmony, and you want to create a whole structured piece of music in which the various solos are set like diamonds in a crown. Which brings us back to Carla Bley.
When I orchestrate, I orchestrate for 6 horns. In fact, even before I orchestrate, my chords rarely have more than 6 important notes in them, and rarely less. So I need 6 horns all the time. And I don't need any more. I wouldn't know really what to do with 7.
As Carla says, she writes for the 6 horns in her band as well as the rhythm section. But really, she's writing for the people who play them. She gets to know who the musicians are, what sort of sound they get out of their instrument, the way they solo. She's making the whole band an extension of herself. Duke Ellington used to write that way, and it's what gave his band its distinctive sound. For Carla, as it was for Duke, the band is her instrument. While Carla is rehearsing the band, she's doing more than making sure they know their parts. She's trying to shape their sound to match what she already has in her head.
If you have your own band, you can hear the piece you wrote the next day. It's complete freedom. And that's the reason I have the band. I write a piece, I get it played myself the way it's supposed to be. The first 10 years, everybody else was recording my pieces, and none of them ever quite turned out how I liked. And now I have no one to blame but myself if something doesn't turn out right, but it's just really a composer's final step to hearing it, and hearing it properly. I can't stand to let anything out of my control now. I'm totally spoiled. I didn't intend it to be this way, but now that I do have complete control, I have to keep it.
So now we've come full circle. We began talking about composition in classical music, and now after seeing how jazz musicians create ideas through on-the-spot improvisation, we've come back to someone who composes for a jazz orchestra. Along the way, we've had the opportunity to see 4 musicians, each representing a different aspect of jazz creativity. 4 out of the thousands who have helped shape jazz history. Oh yes, these 4 musicians are all women, but I hardly think of that anymore. What is more important, each one is an individual voice. Each is a creative force in the world of jazz. The best way a show like this could conclude is with one person who, in her life and her music, represents what we mean when we speak of jazz creativity. Of course, I'm talking about the late Mary Lou Williams, pianist, arranger, composer, teacher, and spiritual force whose music has deeply affected all of us. Mary Lou was already a professional musician when she joined the great Kansas City band, Andy Kirk and his Clouds of Joy, in 1929. She stayed with that band for 12 years, not only playing but contributing some of its best arrangements. When styles changed and the new music of bebop came in during the late 40s, Mary Lou was right there, expanding the way she played. In the 50s, she joined the Catholic Church, and from then on, religion became an integral part of her life. She formed the Bel Canto Foundation to help needy musicians, and she wrote some profoundly moving religious compositions. Mary Lou spent the last few years of her life at Duke University, where she was artist in residence. Here, she was able to pass on to another generation the wisdom and knowledge she had spent a lifetime acquiring. Of course, the best way to know Mary Lou is through her music. Here, in one of her last public performances, is Mary Lou going back to her Kansas City roots, playing a Count Basie blues.